Good morning, Sully.
What's up, buddy? You awake?
You know it, man. How could I not be awake on such a rainy morning?
That's why we were a little worried. We're like, it's 50 degrees and raining. He might be sleeping in a little bit.
Hey, let me tell you something, man. It was so loud. The raindrops so loud. It kind of disturbed me.
What are you living in a tin shack or something?
No, I'm not. Usually it's cars honking and trash trucks driving by. But the rain, too serene, woke me up.
So what's going on, buddy? Is it a good day for you to kind of catch up, or are you just going to take the whole day off and say the heck with it? I'm not even thinking about softball today.
I'm not thinking about softball today. Not today, man. I'm gonna think about it a little bit. I'm sure it's always on the brain somewhere there, but it is a day off, and it seems like a day for maybe some movies, maybe some reading, maybe a little music,
maybe Rocky 1 through 5.
Oh yeah, maybe.
That's always somewhere like on AMC or something. They play all the Rockies back to back.
This is a great. Hey, if I catch Shawshank on one of the channels, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it all the way through.
That's a great rainy day movie for sure.
Absolutely.
What's your rainy day movie go to?
My rainy day movie go to is probably
Predator 1 and 2.
It's a good question. I'd say if I had to choose, I'd say Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'd probably go Alien versus Predator.
Well, not a bad choice either.
So what's going on with the high school softball scene? Fill us in here.
Well, playoff seedings come out on Monday. We're going to see where these teams fall and what the matchups are going to be. I think that's always kind of the most important part of determining who makes it out of these brackets for the most part. It's a game of matchups. I think this year you look across South Jersey, there are a couple teams that are certainly well equipped to be the favorites in their brackets, but I don't know that anybody other than EHT really is somebody that's chalk that you say they are definitely the team to beat. I guess you could make that argument for Delsea in Group 3 South. But Mainland's there, Cumberland's there. I believe Pinelands is there. So,
I tell you what, Group 3 South is going to be really interesting because, like you said, Mainland, Delsea, Cumberland. You also got Lacey's really playing well. So a lot of teams that have been there in the past. So that's going to be you could end up with some really good semifinal games in that bracket.
Yeah, and I like GCIT in there too. I mean, they're a team that plays tough competition. They know Cumberland very well. That's going to be an interesting bracket. 4 is obviously the best, and I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You look, EHT will be the 1 seed. I believe Kingsway will be the 2 seed. RV will be the 3 seed. And even after that, some of those next level teams, Millville, Cherokee, Shawnee. We always talk about Eastern. Vineland is a team that's capable of beating anyone on any day, as we've seen. They beat Millville this year and could have beaten them twice, to be quite honest with you. So 4 is the group to watch. 2 is interesting, a little bit different this year, as Audubon drops down to Group 1. So then that makes 1 pretty darn interesting, too, because you got Audubon and Gloucester in there. 2 teams I think are probably the cream of the crop in 1.
How's Haddon Heights doing? I know they've had some pretty good teams the past couple of years.
Well, Haddon Heights has been around 500 all year, but they had a huge win the other day against Audubon, actually. I think Audubon was 14-2 or 15-2 prior to that. They beat Audubon by a couple runs. So they're going to be right there. They're in the playoffs. They're in the mix, about 500. Not a fantastic season, but, it's funny in the Colonial Conference, there's probably about 5 or 6 teams, maybe 7, who are solid teams, from a team like Heights to a team like Audubon. West Deptford's in there. Sterling. Sterling's had a very good run the last few years. The solid teams. Hatfield, I would count as one also. The bottom of the conference is just, I don't even know how to put it politely. I mean, it's pretty bad. So it's interesting how the season plays out for some of the teams. You look at a team like Heights, okay? They get this big win last week, and then, depending on how the schedule shakes out, there's teams that might go 3 or 4 games, not necessarily with Heights in this situation, but there's teams that might go 3 or 4 games, literally winning 21-0, regardless of their own talent level, I guess I would say. So it's hard to get a beat on it. I would say the day in, day out schedule is not as strong as some other places.
I'll tell you a team to look out for, Mark, in South Jersey too, might be Cedar Creek. They've had a pretty good year. They've beaten Mainland, so they got a couple of signature wins under their belt. So that might be a team to look out for in that bracket.
Yeah, and Cedar Creek's played some tough teams outside of the conference too, right? I mean, in a sense, we could say the same thing about the Cape Atlantic League. There are a handful of teams that good teams are just going to beat every time out. I mean, the likelihood of an upset is so small in some of these games. But Cedar Creek, they did play some teams out of conference also in the beginning of the year. And certainly, I mean, they're certainly going to be in the mix. I think they're in 2. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
2's wide open. 2 really is. I would peg Sterling as the favorite. I believe they'll probably be the 3 seed. Yeah, Delran and Cinnaminson would probably be the 1 and 2 seeds. They're both very good teams, but there's not, last year, if you remember, West Deptford was in that group, and they really just chugged through the regular season with an experienced team that they expected to be back there. They pounded a lot of teams on their way. Not necessarily the case this year. Cinnaminson had lost a tight one to West Deptford last year in the playoffs, so they're experienced. Sterling lost a tight one to West Deptfard in the championship of South Jersey last year. They're experienced. I think those 2 teams, if they were to meet up in the semifinals, would be a tremendous matchup, and I would imagine the winner would have a pretty good shot at taking that final.
Talking with Mark Trible of the Courier-Post, covers high school softball. Mark, anybody really jumping out inside the circle? I know we haven't had too many dominating performances this year. A lot of great pitchers have graduated the last couple of years, but anybody really jumping out at you as somebody to watch, as maybe a pitcher that can really carry somebody through a couple rounds of playoffs?
Well, there's no doubt about it. It's at Kingsway, and Grace Fagan might be the best pitcher in the state, and if she's not, she's definitely in the top 5. You're talking a junior, a lefty who's going to Mississippi State to play.
Wow.
The Kingsway right now, I think they're 21-4, and in 16 or 17 of those games, they scored 4 runs or fewer. So they've won because she doesn't give up much. She's had games of 17 strikeouts, 18 strikeouts. She is the X factor in Group 4 when you're looking at a team that maybe could usurp EHT as the defending champ there. She's unbelievable. Now, Kingsway has to be able to hit behind her. That's kind of the interesting part. We get to this point, we see teams that can slug it. They win 12-4, 13-3 all year, and you kind of know, okay, well, they're going to have to be able to play defense and pitch when it comes to postseason. Then you have a team like Kingsway on the other side of the map where you say they're going to have to get timely hits. Who does both? I think that's why you look at a team like EHT and say they do both. You look at a team like Rancocas Valley and say Angie Dunphy, 4-year starter, senior, in the circle. She knows how to get the job done, to pitch to contact, to get the outs, and their teams, the bats are really heating up at the right time. So, but Fagan can shut down any team in New Jersey on any day. So do not be surprised if Kingsway makes a run.
Yeah, I know EHT's kind of the favorite in South Jersey 4, but they're definitely going to have their hands full. There's plenty of teams in there that can challenge them You mentioned Rancocas Valley, Eastern with Waro back. I mean, they're a solid squad, so not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination for the Eagles.
Well, I'll say this about EHT. It's been interesting, fascinating almost the last couple of years because, as you know, it's isolated in terms of where most of these schools are from. I mean, up from Vineland, Millville, and then there's so many up here, Cherokee, Shawnee, Eastern, all these, Washington Township. I don't want to say it's like a secret. It certainly isn't after last year, but EHT is kind of its own phenomenon right now in South Jersey softball where, they're not in the traditional tournaments that everybody else is in, but they've played out a conference. They pounded Cherokee. They pounded Washington Township. They, beat Millville twice, so we know how they stack up against the best of the best. But it's one of those things where people are kind of like, what's going on down there?
Yeah, they've won 38 of their last 39. So
yeah, their only loss in the last 2 years has come in the state championship. Like, I don't want to say it's similar to like Georgetown's Hoya paranoia. It's not like a fear level, but it's like they're kind of in their own bubble and a kind of a veil of secrecy where everybody knows, man, EHT is really good, and nobody wants to play them. They don't lose. We might not be intimately detailed with what's going on down there, but we know they're unstoppable.
Good stuff as always, Mark. Up against the break, got to let you go. We'll talk some more playoffs next weekend, buddy.
Fantastic, Sully. Thanks, man. Have a good rainy Saturday.
Thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too.
That was Mark Trible of the Courier-Post.